Welcome to iCafe Latte, our roundtable discussion featuring our distinguished guests.
We are recording live this morning in Powder Springs, Georgia, and are joined by Dr. Mercy Mabian and Ms. Frida Mabian. Thank you for joining us. So, Galatians chapter 3, verse 26. For all of you are God's children through faith in the Messiah, Jesus. This version is the International Standard Version. Verse 27 says, indeed, all of you who were baptized into the Messiah have clothed yourselves with the Messiah. Because all of you are one in the Messiah. A person is no longer a Jew or a Greek, a slave or a free person, a male or a female. And if you belong to the Messiah, then you are Abraham's descendants indeed, and heirs according to the promise. So what I'd basically like to talk about is this verse in relation to something that was posted on CNN.com regarding women's power, a story with sharp divide by Frida Gaitis, and this was dated January 4th, 2013. And in the article, she stated that there's a sharp divide in the worldwide struggle for women's equality. While women have made major strides, in some cases reaching the pinnacle of power, the most fundamental human rights, such as freedom to go outside without risking harassment and physical attack, elude millions. And full equality remains an unreached goal for most. We're talking about women. Women lead some of the globe's biggest and most important countries. For example, Chancellor Angela Merkel heads the government of Germany. Julia Gillard leads Australia. Dilma Rousseff is president of Brazil, and the list goes on. And of course, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton currently is probably the world's best known woman and unquestionably one of the most influential. But she is only one of the many who have reached so far. Now, just this week, American voters elected 20 women to the Senate. That's the largest number in the history of the country. But yet, that's only 20% of the seats in the Senate. That's still quite telling. Then there are the murderers and attempted murders last year in Pakistan, where the Taliban tried to kill a young lady, Malala Yousafzai, a 14-year-old girl who demanded nothing more than the right to an education. The Taliban, who also claims to be a religious group. And last month, in neighboring Afghanistan, gunmen murdered, her name was Najee Siddiqui, the provincial director of women's affairs there. Over in Egypt, the women of Egypt who stood in the front lines of the revolution will now have to live with a new constitution that commits the state to preserve the genuine character of the Egyptian family and vaguely notes the duties of a woman toward her family. This opens the door to who knows what efforts by the state to keep women in a lower place. Listen to this. In the United States, where progress is indisputable in many cases, women still make an aggregate of 76 cents for every dollar a man earns. And it is perceived that women's minds and ideas don't receive equal hearing on a national stage, partly because, as one survey showed, only 20% of all op-ed articles are written by women and just 15% of columns dealing with foreign policy and security issues. So the road to women's equality, as it turns out, is paved with potholes, quicksand, and death traps. Now, I don't know if any of you sitting right here and now can dispute this fact right here. It is well documented that even in the Bible, women and their roles in society are marginalized. This, of course, is seen by the universal reference to God as masculine. And it's a very deliberate attempt where God is consistently referred to as masculine. He and him. And the perpetual reference to the male characters of the Bible. Who are the heroes that we remember? Give me a male name in the Bible that you think of. Anybody? Somebody significant? Moses, all right? David, okay? Or David. Go ahead.
Abraham.
Paul. Paul,
Peter.
Peter,
All the disciples were men.
all the disciples, and there are religious groups that will say that, of course, God was trying to say something, or Jesus was trying to make a point when he appointed only men as the disciples. The 70 and 2 that followed him in the beginning, were they all men?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
They only counted the men, but there were women that were in the group.
Okay, so what we see is, and the sad truth about it is, as we look at the Bible, we see consistent herald to the males, what the males have done, and this is the product basically of the society. Now, what's interesting is that some societies look to the Bible for the example, and so some will argue that because the Bible shows the male as in that dominant role, then that's the way society should be. However, there's an author by the name of Christopher Rolston who wrote an article, Writing and Literacy in the World of Ancient Israel. In an article that he wrote entitled The Marginalization of Women, a Biblical Value We Don't Like to Talk About, this was dated August 31st, 2012, he admits that there are some people that say that God is a chauvinist. I've heard that, because it's almost as if all the respect goes to the man, and it's as if there is no respect that goes preeminently to the woman. Some people have said that because, well, God allowed the Bible to be written that way. But this guy was basically saying that in his article, while he admits that yes, we do see an emphasis on the males in the Bible. If you look throughout the Bible, you will find there are examples of dominant females, right? Such as Deborah. Who was Deborah?
She was a ruler.
The judge.
She was a judge. So Deborah was a judge. She was a judge or a leader of their nation. Queen Esther. And I mean, I read where the Jewish people have a lot to give thanks for when they think about Queen Esther. Because what did Esther do?
She pretty much saved their nation.
She fasted for 3 days to save the nation of Israel.
To save the whole nation. They say if Queen Esther didn't, well, she was strategically put in that position of queen so that she could be used to save the nation from extermination. So that she could be used. It was a woman that God chose. It was a woman that God raised up. From the day Esther was born, throughout all the life that she lived, to the point when she became queen, she never understood it, but God saw that this is what her purpose was. Now, there is no other reference in that word about anything else that she did. The most significant thing that she did, and I believe our Jewish friends and our Orthodox Jewish friends will agree, was she saved the people of Israel. So we're talking about significant women in the Bible. Although there is a dominance of the male influence throughout the Bible and the references to the male, we see the no one can dispute the efforts of Queen Esther. What about the Queen of Sheba?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like they don't mention her. I mean, they mention her, but you don't. She was supposedly like rich, right? Because when she came to visit Solomon, she gave him, gold and money and whatnot. So she was powerful, but they don't really go into like detail about her that much.
At the same time, for her to be made queen in her country.
During that time, she must have been very big, because that's a time where you have a lot of wars going on. For a woman to be ruling, when everything, even if you blink an eye, people are going to war, she must have been very powerful to have that type of position during that time. Because even before Solomon became as big as he was, we were already hearing about Sheba all over the place. Mm-hmm. So she was really huge. People compared their riches to what she had. So she must have been very, very powerful. And for her to accommodate such riches, she has conquered a lot of countries.
Right. Right. And not only was she wealthy, you just emphasized how you believe that she had to have been a powerful woman, and not just a powerful woman, but she was beautiful enough for Solomon to entertain her.
Right.
And so here was a beautiful woman from that side of the world who was a powerful woman, an influential woman, who was worthy enough to be mentioned here in the Bible.
In the Bible.
Worthy enough to be mentioned here in the Bible. And then the book of Acts briefly mentions, in the book of Acts, when they were talking about the Ethiopian eunuch, right, who was riding on his chariot, he was coming down, and he was reading, obviously, Isaiah chapter 53, and the Ethiopian eunuch was from the court of Queen Candace, from Ethiopia. They mentioned Queen Candace in passing, but when you do the research, who was Queen Candace?
She was a powerful ruler, powerful enough to put some fear into Alexander the Great. He did not want to go to war with her. And I think that's pretty astonishing, because a woman of that caliber in that time period was unheard of. It's not the norm. Not even in today. How many women commander-in-chiefs have we had? None.
Right, and I think we were just asking this question. We were watching a soccer game, and we were asking, but where are the women coaches? You know, they're all men. So where are the women coaches? But yet we did raise the point, right, that you will see for women's international soccer, you will see male coaches though. But for the men's international soccer, you never see a female coach. You just never. You never see a prominent female basketball coach. NBA, are y'all listening? So we never see a prominent female NFL coach. We never see a prominent female coach for any one of these
Major sports.
major sports. You just don't see it. And you know, if you look in Hollywood, and my hat's off to some of the people that do this, you know, people like Christopher Nolan, who make sure that his wife is listed on the credits as a producer. On everything that he does, she's listed as a producer. And that's one way of making sure that her name is there. Making sure that as a woman, whatever role she plays, she gets acknowledged for that. But we have asked the question, you know, going back to Candace, when we did the research, Candace was a fearsome woman. Alexander the Great conquered this. Alexander the Great conquered that. He's written in history. He never feared going anywhere. But he feared Candace. What kind of fear? I mean, what kind of a woman must she have been? That this great conqueror, he basically feared going up against her army.
In Egypt.
He feared facing her because he feared that he would have lost. And he didn't want it to be recorded in history that he lost a battle to an Ethiopian queen.
And that's not even all. An African.
As they say,
African woman.
what was the movie we were in the Mulan? It said shame, shame, shame on you, shame on your house, shame on your horse. It would have been shame, shame, shame on Alexander the Great if he had been defeated by this great woman. It would be total shame on him if he had been defeated by her. So he avoided going her way by every means necessary.
Please join us again next week for the continuation of our discussion regarding the Bible's influence on how society perceives women today.